Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Welcome everyone for Chaitanya Charitamrita class. Here we go again. Hopefully you hear me better this time, because in order to increase the sound, I had to put the camera or phone straight into my face, basically. But whatever works. Today we are reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 1, text 47. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda,
Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda,
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Kaura Bhakta Vrinda,
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda,
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda,
Jaya Dvaita Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda,
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Kaura Bhakta Vrinda,
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda,
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda,
Jaya Dvaita Jaya Sri Chaitanya,
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
The verse is as follows, and hopefully we can also take questions today, because you should have access to questions. See if I can find. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Okay, Adilila, chapter 1, text 47. Shiksha Guru Keta Jani Krishna Rasvarupa Antaryami Bhakta Shrestha Eidu Rupa. We do word for word. Shiksha Guru Ke, the spiritual master who instructs.
The spiritual master who instructs.
Ta,
Ta,
indeed.
indeed.
Jani,
Jani,
I know.
I know.
Krishnera,
Krishnaya,
of Krishna.
of Krishna.
Svarupa,
Swarupa,
the direct representative.
the direct representative.
Antaryami,
Antaryami,
the indwelling supersoul.
the indwelling supersoul.
Bhakta Shrestha,
Bhakta Shrestha,
the best of devotee.
the best of the devotees.
A, these,
These,
Dui,
Dui,
two,
to
Rupa,
Rupa,
forms.
forms.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. One should know the instructing spiritual master to be the personality of Krishna. Lord Krishna manifests himself as the Supersoul and as the greatest devotee of the Lord. Purport. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami states that the instructing spiritual master is a bona fide representative of Sri Krishna. Sri Krishna himself teaches us that the instructing spiritual master, as the instructing spiritual master from within and without. From within he teaches as Paramatma, or constant companion, and from without he teaches from Bhagavad Gita as the instructing spiritual master. There are two kinds of instructing spiritual masters. One is the liberated person fully absorbed in meditation in devotional service, and the other is he who invokes the disciple's spiritual consciousness by means of relevant instructions. Thus, the instructions in the science of devotion are differentiated in terms of the objective and subjective ways of understanding. The Acharya, in the true sense of the term, who is authorized to deliver Krishna, enriches the disciple with full spiritual knowledge and thus awakens him to the activities of devotional service. Then, by learning from the self-realized spiritual master, one actually engages himself in the service of Lord Vishnu. Functional devotional service begins. The procedures of this devotional service are known as abhidheya, or actions one is duty bound to perform. Our only shelter is the Supreme Lord, and one who teaches how to approach Krishna is the functioning form of the personality of Godhead. There is no difference between the shelter-giving Supreme Lord and the initiating and instructing spiritual masters. If one foolishly discriminates between them, he commits an offense in the discharge of devotional service. Srila Sanatana Goswami is the ideal spiritual master, for he delivers one the shelter of the lotus feet of Madan Mohan. Even though one may be unable to travel on the field of Vrindavan due to forgetfulness of his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he can get an adequate opportunities to stay in Vrindavan and derive all spiritual benefits by the mercy of Sanatana Goswami. Sri Govindaji acts exactly like the Shiksha Guru, instructing spiritual master, by teaching Arjuna Bhagavad Gita. He is the original preceptor, for he gives us instructions and an opportunity to serve him. The initiating spiritual master is a personal manifestation of Sri Madan Mohan Vigraha, whereas the instructing spiritual master is a personal representative of Srila Govindadev Vigraha. Both of these deities are worshipped at Vrindavan. Srila Gopinath is the ultimate attraction in spiritual realization. Shiksha Guru Ketta Jani Krishnera Swarupa Antaryami Bhakta Shrestha Eidui Rupa. One should know the instructing spiritual master to be the personality of Krishna. Lord Krishna manifests himself as the Supersoul and as the greatest devotee of the Lord. This is the verse. Om Akyanadimirandasya Kyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manopishtam Stapitam Yena Putale Swayam Rupa Gata Mahyam Tatati Svapatantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishna Bhutale Sri Swami Mahaprabhu Parapriya Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtatya Deshatarine. This verse here is packed with important and interesting instructions and points Srila Prabhupada wants us to understand. And so let us try to go through that purport and actually understand. Let's try to understand what Prabhupada is explaining here. First of all, let's bring it into the into perspective. That the jiva souls in this material world are wandering lifetime after lifetime from one body into another, searching for happiness, trying to avoid distress and suffering, experiencing all kind of miseries, anxiety, and there are, as we know, 8,400,000 species of life. And in this situation, to get a human form, it is a rare gift. Human form of life, first of all. Devotees once brought analogy that what is the chances to get a human form of life? Well, it's very rare. And then in this human form, in order to meet the bona fide spiritual master who is able to give you the real knowledge that can end your endless journey from species to species, one life to another. It is so rare to find such authorized spiritual master. It is like comparing it to chances where you throw the ring into the sea. How they call this ring that for lifeguards use? Life buoy, yeah. You throw it in one side of the planet into the sea, and then you put the seal into the ocean in other side of the planet. And then what are the chances that when the seal comes up, puts the head through the ring? So how rare it is to find this bona fide spiritual master. So therefore this instruction that Srila Prabhupada here gives are very relevant, very important for us to understand, because we had that great fortune of coming in contact with a bona fide spiritual master. And the further success depends on how we utilize the situation, how we understand our great fortune. So, there are two kinds of spiritual master. Prabhupada says one is liberated person, fully absorbed in meditation and devotional service, and the other one is who instructs the disciples' spiritual consciousness by means of relevant instructions. Well, two kinds. So the first, one is liberated person, fully absorbed in meditation and devotional service. As I understand this, this refers to someone on a level of Uttamadhikari, right? And then how does he act as a spiritual master? Basically, he's fully absorbed in meditation and devotional service. He's already liberated, and in that condition, that this liberated soul is acting as a perfect example of what you should aspire for, and what you should become. And this way, he's acting as spiritual master. And the other one is who invokes the disciple's spiritual consciousness by means of relevant instructions. That could be a Madhyamadhikari. Madhyamadhikari who's could be Uttamadhikari level, but takes a step down in order to instruct others. Because on Uttamadhikari level, you just see everyone as devotees. You don't feel the need to instruct others, because you see everyone not just as devotee, but as better than oneself. So, what's the question of preaching? But yeah, Madhyamadhikari is a devotee who is preaching and helping others to come up to the platform of devotional service. Thus the instructions of the science in devotional service are differentiated in terms of the objective and subjective ways of understanding. So, subjective and objective. Objective is something that is beyond your personal feelings, your personal emotions. Objective is something that is it's a factual, it is observable. It's a simple definition of objective. So there are instructions of the Shastra, the scripture, which represent the objective, objective way of understanding in terms of this is what you should do, but how you apply it in your life individually. You need to apply this subjective understanding, because we all have our own psychophysical nature, our karmic mess, so to speak, to deal with. And in that very specific situation, how do you apply the Shastra? You need the help of a spiritual master who helps you to apply those objective instructions in your particular condition. So that's why very essential to have spiritual master. And The Acharya, in the true sense of the term, is authorized to deliver Krishna, and he enriches the disciple with spiritual knowledge and thus awakens him to the activities of devotional service. And so the next sentence, by learning from the self-realized spiritual master, one actually engages himself in the service of Lord Vishnu, and functional service, devotional service begins. And the procedures of this devotional service are known as abhidheya. But first, what it means that the Acharya enriches the disciple with full spiritual knowledge and thus awakens him to the activities of devotional service. So the full spiritual knowledge first is called Sambandha Gyan. Sambandha means the relationship, and for Sambandha is the basis of our spiritual life. Sambandha, it's just like foundation. If you want to build high skyscraper, it will crumble unless it has a strong foundation. And the foundation is so essential. And basically, it is understanding of who is Krishna, who is Jiva, the soul, and who is what is material nature, Prakriti. So this triangle, Krishna, Prakriti, Jiva, understanding relationship between all these aspects is Sambandha Gyan. And is absolutely essential, especially for sadhakas. And Sambandha Gyan teaches how we know God is great, yes, but how God is great? Sambandha Gyan teaches God is great. Also, let's say you have a friend, and but in order to increase your attachment and love to your friend, you need to hear the glories of your friend. Similarly, Sambandha Gyan contains explanations of the glories of Krishna. How Krishna is great. Some people complain why Krishna in Bhagavad Gita is so arrogantly saying that I'm this, I'm that. There are some people who accuse Krishna.
Boasting.
Yes, boasting. Aham sarvasya prabhavo. I'm the source of all these material spiritual universes, and so many verses where Krishna is saying how great he is, basically. But Krishna doesn't do that out of false ego.
He's got no false ego.
Exactly. First of all, Krishna doesn't have false ego, and he does it out of necessity. We need to hear that for our benefit. So this is part of Sambandha Gyan. Krishna is telling about his own glories. It is said in the Vedas, whole Vedas, only 3 things are described: Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojana. And then the all knowledge of the science of Krishna consciousness, it is divided into these 3 categories: Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojana. So Abhideya, as Prabhupada here mentions, are actions one is duty bound to perform, or procedures of devotional service are called Abhideya. In other words, the practical activities, because one part of devotional service is Sravanam Kirtanam, right? We hear about Krishna. By hearing and chanting about Krishna, we fill our heart with love. And then Abhideya is our activities where you express that love practically. So, and yes, our only shelter is the Supreme Lord, and one who teaches how to approach Krishna is the functioning form of the personality of Godhead. And there is no difference between the shelter-giving Supreme Lord and the initiating and instructing spiritual masters. If one foolishly discriminates between them, one commits an offense in the discharge of devotional service. It's quite interesting. many years ago, quite beginning of my present service, once I approached my spiritual master, and I told him, this physical fitness training and all these exercises, it takes so much of my time. I complained that I don't have time for spiritual life. What a foolish argument. But my spiritual master answered, "This is your spiritual life." Why he said like that? One sense, this is my spiritual life because this is what he wants me to do, and that whatever your spiritual master wants you to do, this is your spiritual life. Of course, doesn't mean that I neglect all my hearing and chanting or reading Prabhupada's books. But in terms of the service, Abhideya, that's what I'm supposed to do, to please him, to please Krishna. In my new fight understanding, I totally separated these things. This is spiritual life and this is something else, which disturbs my spiritual life. So spiritual practice is all about submission. Yeah, we accept spiritual master, we accept initiation and instructions of the spiritual master. It's all about submission. But in material life, it's just the opposite. Nobody wants to submit to anyone. It's a material society, and from the very beginning, we're brought up with this control. From the very beginning of life, we're taught to conquer, dominate, be victorious. This is the mentality we're being brought up with, and so it's quite a shift that to spiritual practice where you're supposed to submit, give up your independent desires. Therefore, it could be quite hard for some people to stay fixed on the path, or even, staying fixed, even to come to the path of devotional service, because nobody wants to submit. But therefore, we are submitting ourselves, we are submitting our false ego in this process of Krishna consciousness, submitting our false ego with all that comes together with that false ego, all this illusory conception of ourselves, we're submitting at the lotus feet of Krishna, but it happens through the spiritual master. Krishna accepts our submission, our surrender, but through the spiritual master, or Srila Prabhupada calls it, through current link. Current link, right? This is a nice definition. And yes, the submission, the surrender is happening, supposed to happen every moment. It's not that 2002, I submitted, I surrendered 2002. Unfortunately, it doesn't work. It has to happen day in, day out, 24/7. And therefore one has to hear from spiritual master. There's very nice purport in second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which many years ago I discovered. Actually, I read it from Shivaram Swami's book, Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani. And he says, an easygoing life and attainment of perfection in transcendental realization cannot go together. The Lord is more clever than any living entity. Therefore, he wants to see how painstaking the devotee is in devotional service. The order is received from the Lord, either directly or through the bona fide spiritual master, and to execute that order, however painstaking it is, the severe type of penance. One who follows the principle rigidly is sure to achieve success in attaining the Lord's mercy. Quite a strong words. So the Lord wants to see how painstaking the devotee is in devotional service. Seems like the Lord is so cruel. He wants to see how much pain you are able to take, how much you're willing to tolerate. The order has been received. In other words, instruction of a spiritual master in our case. And to execute that order, however painstaking, is the severe type of penance.
It also brings out the glory of the devotee.
That's a good point, yes.
Yeah, it's not that Krishna's a hard taskmaster, he just brings out the glories. I remember once we were travelling with Parashuram and lots of things were happening, and you think, why is Krishna doing this? But they appear to be obstacles,
Yeah, yeah.
But when the devotees overcome them, just glory, you can see the real, the glories of the devotees, So there was one time.
Can you leave it for the end? Sorry. This is the etiquette of.
Sorry about that. Yeah, sorry
just follow the.
I just got into it.
I know.
Sorry about that.
I know it triggered you something.
Don't worry. At the end of the class.
At the end of the class, good. Yes. So, however painstaking the instruction of spiritual master is, that's what we're supposed to do, and that's how our sincerity is tested. That's how we exhibit our submission. And yes, and it's very individual. For me, my spiritual master gave me service that I didn't want to accept. Very reluctantly, I agreed to do, to do this fitness exercises every day. It was severe type of penance, really, and still is. It has never become easy. Still not a picnic. I have to really push myself, and it takes surrender. But as our spiritual intelligence develops by hearing Shastra, hearing from devotees, and then with the help of that spiritual intelligence, we're able to shut down this mind, who is always rebelling and complaining against doing what is best for us. And therefore, somehow or other, we're able to carry on by the mercy. Because that's why it is said, with the instructions of spiritual master comes the ability to execute it. Right? It's amazing what, by sincerely trying to follow the instructions of spiritual master, we are able to accomplish unimaginable, right? Which we never perceived, we could ever do. And that's why, because instruction comes from Krishna, and then all the empowerment comes from Krishna. And to do anything is in this world, you need empowerment. Even to walk across the room, you need empowerment to do that. We don't think about it. Yeah. We're just, because we're not conscious of Krishna. Right? And therefore, one aspect of our advancement in spiritual consciousness is to become aware of seemingly insignificant things that happen. So we are able to see miracles in small things. That's one symptom of advanced consciousness. That, just natural phenomena that happens, like you put the seed into the ground, and a huge tree comes from the seed. That's one of the examples of how to be able to perceive a great miracle in a small, apparently common thing. But the modern society is not helping us to develop that side of vision. We have smartphones, but we are being dumbed down. Our finer intelligence and finer sense of perception, memory, everything is being degraded. So, we need empowerment. Let's move on with our purport. Yes, so it is offense to, in discharge of devotional service, to foolishly discriminate between the shelter-giving Lord, initiating spiritual master, and instructing spiritual master. This is offense, amazingly. Because one reason it is offense is that Krishna is trying to speak to us through through many different channels, and like we read from the beginning of purport, Paramatma is one spiritual master who teaches us within and without. Paramatma is teaching within. I remember when I joined in my country, then there was one older senior man who also became interested in Krishna consciousness, and he ended up moving into temple, spent some time living in temple, and he was really into Paramatma. He was like really Paramatmavadi. It was actually amazing. It was quite inspiring to see how he got really into the Paramatma realization. He studied all the verses from Bhagavad Gita regarding Paramatma, and he at every moment, every situation, tried to apply that, and it was really nice. And he was very excited about the whole thing, which is good. We're supposed to be, he saw how Paramatma is acting in all kind of different interactions and in every situation. And in Chaturshloki of Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd canto, 9th chapter, there is wonderful verse which approves that type of approach. Chaturshloki is where Lord Krishna tells Lord Brahma, and one of these verses is a person who is searching for the absolute truth must certainly search for it in all circumstances, at all times, both directly and indirectly. It's who is actually serious in Krishna consciousness and advancement in spiritual life must search for the absolute truth at all times, in all circumstances, directly and indirectly. And so Paramatma, of course, we don't put the Paramatma realization in a prominent place in our practice. We're trying to realize Bhagavan aspect, Krishna personally. But still, I'm sure all devotees have experienced how they got a glimpse of Paramatma giving them advice or protecting them in some way or other. I have so many occasions, especially it happens during travel. Events connected with the traveling. There is so many how Krishna's really saved me from either losing my flight or he said help me to get a visa in order to go to do my service somewhere. I remember once I had to go to apply for Australian visa, and then there's no embassy in Ireland, in Dublin, so I had to go to London. I got my flights booked all to London and back the same day. Everything was calculated, but I didn't calculate, unfortunately, the distance of airport from the embassy. So when I arrived, it was almost embassy. They just closed it, and if I don't get that visa confirmed visa that day, well, I lose my flights, one thing, and also I might lose my Australian flight. So all my service that I'm supposed to go to do in Australia for 3 months is down the drain. And so I was in really anxiety because the embassy was closed, but there was like a bell, like a phone you can ring, and I told them, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't know that your closing time is so early. I supposed to get a visa, and please help, please make exception. You know, in embassies, there's like cutthroat, cold-hearted, you know, you're late, your business, your problem. But anyway, I was pleading, and then it was definitely Paramatma who's giving me intelligence, what to say to the guy. And then somehow or other, they let me in. They asked me, so when is your flight? If I would say, you know, tomorrow or 2 days from now, they wouldn't. They say, come back tomorrow. They don't care that my flight is booked to Dublin, back to Dublin to the same day. You know, but so Paramatma gave me intelligence what to say, and then finally they agreed to give me visa. I was like, it was so close. Another time was when I supposed to, I came from Polish tour, I was on the way back to Dublin, and then Gatwick Airport, one of these airports in London, there's many terminals, and they are apart from each other, apart long distances, and you have to take this train that connects these different terminals, and I couldn't find the information from which terminal my flight is going. I was and time was running out. I was like, and there was like, I was really in anxiety, a lot of stress, you know, during traveling, because you don't want to lose your flight. You're not millionaire. So. And there was so that the train came to the station. I just wasn't sure. Should I go to the train to the other terminal? Maybe it's my flight there, because I couldn't find any information. I already stepped into the train. Somehow or other, I asked people around. Nobody was able to give me any reasonable answer from which terminal. Nobody knew. And then I was already in a train, but Paramatma told me, no, go out. Your flight is going from this terminal where you are now. And later on I realized if I would have, you know, stayed in the train, I would miss my flight. It's like many occasions like this. The super soul, who is one type of spiritual master, is helping us at every moment if we are ready to hear. Actually, Paramatma is telling us all the time. But are we in the consciousness to hear? Are we receptive to his advice and guiding words? Therefore, we should learn to hear. Prabhupada calls it with rapt attention. Rapt attention. I like this word, rapt. Many times in the past, because of my service with very tight schedule, even during lectures in a temple, I'm multitasking. You know, I'm doing my costume. I'm sewing my stage performance costume. Why? Because time is so tight, and if I don't do it during that time, I will not make it by the tour begins. So I'm constantly multitasking, trying to maximize my time. But recently, during this lockdown, I just realized multitasking, it's not effective after all, as they say it is. Because I you know, especially during these Bhagavatam classes that are happening online these days, I realized that if I stop multitasking and fully, 100% tune into the speaker, I get so much more out of it.
Got it, yeah.
It's how important it is to hear Krishna Katha with rapt attention, because it goes much deeper into our subconsciousness, and we can get much more benefit at the end of the day. In first canto, third chapter of Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada nicely explains one should hear Bhagavatam with rapt attention. One cannot hear with rapt attention unless one is pure in mind. One cannot be pure in mind unless he is pure in action. And you cannot be pure in action unless you are pure in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. That's how Prabhupada put it. So rapt attention. It really transforms our life if we are tuning in with full attention. And yes, I noticed. So as soon as I decide, okay, nothing else matters during the Bhagavatam class, and what happens is magic happens. Magic in the form that Krishna starts speaking to you. If I'm in a consciousness of eagerly waiting what Krishna wants to tell me through that person today, through that speaker, then there's always something, at least one point, that triggers something within me. Because these lectures are not supposed to be just some nice entertainment, right? Our lectures are essential part of our spiritual practice, which are actually meant to create or awaken desire within us to change, bring about some change, in our practices, our spiritual practices. I'm interested to hear lectures which are not just entertaining to the mind, just fun, but are actually pushing me to take Krishna consciousness more seriously, make some adjustments in my own practice. So these are the type of lectures that I say I'm hankering after. But if you hear with rapt attention, then every lecture can become this type of lecture, because there's always Krishna wants to tell you something. Always Krishna wants to tell you, and if you are attentive, you will find. There's a saying in my country: even a blind chicken will find the was it crane? Yeah, even
a
blind
chicken will find the seeds.
Seeds, yeah. So.
That's really good.
Okay. Yes, so by hearing attentively, we are creating deep samskaras in our subconsciousness, deep samskaras, and that's what's ultimately what we want, are as deep samskaras as possible, so that at the moment of death, antamanta ime deha, that you are able to remember Krishna. And what you remembered at the moment, at your last moment, is what's most dear to you, about what you have thought or pondered all your life, the most, something that you have a most emotional connection with. And we want that object to be Krishna. Yeah. But anyway, our future is very bright, because whatever endeavor we make on this path is for our eternal benefit. So, nehapi kramanashosti pratyavayo navidyate svalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Right? On this path, in this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution, and even a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. So, for sure there is no loss, okay, but sometimes there appears to be diminution. I feel like sometimes I'm in a situation where I think, why I don't feel that enthusiasm in my spiritual practice like I used to. You remember your good times when you were super focused in your japa, you get so much juice out of it, you felt so connected through chanting holy names or reading scripture. And so there seems to be diminution sometimes. There's ups and downs naturally. But therefore by creating those deep samskaras, these will help us actually. These samskaras means you're in your period, in your spiritual practices where you don't experience so much higher taste, or you felt you have lost connection, then by remembering those times when you had that connection, when you had that incredible higher taste, that remembrance can bring your consciousness back up. And this, remembrance can only be there because you have that samskara created in the past. And that's why we should all very consciously utilize this opportunity, this so-called lockdown at the moment, in order to create as many samskaras as possible for our future. Yes, so these samskaras that we create now could be our saving grace in the future. And yes, yesterday was Ekadashi. For the first time in my life, last two Ekadashis, I took the time out, especially I reserved my time for chanting extra japa. And I chanted so many rounds like I never chanted before. And I have never done it because, I mean, without this lockdown, without this so-called virus thing, I would never have done it because I'm always in like in a rat race of getting my project ready for the deadline. And that consciousness doesn't allow me to just stop, and at least it didn't allow me before. So I'm very happy about this increased chanting. And yes, so with that endeavor, I know that I'm creating a deep samskara for the future. So let us create more and more samskaras during this time by absorbing our consciousness fully, Krishna. Okay, let's see. Sanatana Goswami is the ideal spiritual master, for he delivers one the shelter of the lotus feet of Madan Mohan. Sanatana Goswami is ideal spiritual master. One reason is because he personifies humility. He's like epitome of humility, Vaishnava humility. When Sanatana Goswami escaped from the Nawab Hussain Shah's prison, and when he met Lord Chaitanya for the first time, he approached Lord Chaitanya and asked, Ke ami? Who am I? as a sign of humility. People say I'm a great learned scholar, and I'm such a fool. I believe them. So please tell me, who am I? So this humility is an essential quality of a spiritual master. And Sanatana Goswami is the ideal spiritual master. He is really... Different devotees are known by different prominent qualities in them, and Sanatana Goswami especially embodies humility. There are many, many pastimes where Sanatana Goswami exhibited such humility. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "You're breaking my heart. Stop being so humble." And Sanatana Goswami once got this pus and boils over his body, right? And he decided, I need to commit suicide. This body has become useless. I cannot serve my Lord with this useless body. I couldn't commit suicide. He was determined. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knew his mind, his intention, and stopped him, saying, no. First Lord Chaitanya embraced him. Sanatana Goswami was just, saying, don't do that. How can you do that, my Lord? I'm contaminating you. And then ultimately Lord Chaitanya didn't get permission for suicide, saying that your body belongs to me. I have mission for you. I want to accomplish certain things through you. So go to Vrindavan, discover holy places, write the scriptures. Sanat Goswami, amazing personality. And then and Sanatana Goswami delivers us to the lotus feet of Madan Mohan, who is Sambandha Murti, the deity who is giving this Sambandha Gyan. And of course, Abhideya deity is Govinda, as Prabhupada puts here in the purport, that Govinda is one who teaches Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And Prayojana deity is Gopinath. Prabhupada says both of these deities are worshipped at Vrindavan, but they're worshipped at Vrindavan, but they're not located at Vrindavan at the moment, because when Muslims came, they were removed. And then Madan Mohan is at Karoli at the moment. Is worshipped in Karoli, which is on the way to Jaipur, Vrindavan to Jaipur. A couple of years ago, I was fortunate to go with a parikram group with my spiritual master, and we went to Karoli to see original Madan Mohan Didi. So, but Govindaji and Gopinath both are in Jaipur. The Mangala Arati morning program in Govindaji temple in Jaipur is just out of this world. The whole city, the Jaipur comes together, and with great emotion and feeling and devotion, they glorify Govindaji and pray to Govindaji. It's really amazing sight to see. So our spiritual master always wants us to see that. So it takes us specifically for this morning programs there to show what is devotion. It's really something you never forget. It's good to see. And yes, and Gopinath is the highest perfection. Gopinath is the ultimate attraction in spiritual realization. Prabhupada says, Gopinath. There's so much more that could be said. But
running out of time.
Yes, unfortunately, time is so short. And these topics of Krishna consciousness are so relishable. But we end here, and if somebody has a question, I see something here. Okay, Karuneshwari Mataji, I remember His Holiness Shivaram Maharaj saying that when you see a devotee later on in their life doing some empowered preaching service, it has often come after many years of hard work doing the needful, surrendering to their situation. Also, His Holiness Kadamakananda Maharaj told us that mostly his spiritual life has been about doing things that he didn't really want to do. Woo! Nice comment. I can really relate to that. But of course, whether the outcome of many years of doing the needful is apparently big and glorious, or it's being unnoticed by the world, ultimately that's not important. That's not what the devotee is concerned with. Devotee is concerned with simply pleasing spiritual master, pleasing the Lord, and doing their best to follow the instructions. Whether the outcome is glorious and Krishna wants to put you in the limelight or not, that shouldn't be really our concern. But they're very nice comment. Any more questions? You had some question or comment?
I was thinking about when you say when Krishna puts his devotees in difficulty.
Yeah.
And I was mentioning when I was traveling with Parashuram on this tour, Scandinavian tour.
A little louder.
And it was all breaking down. We lost a bolt from the van, and we'd just gone 5 miles away from the camp. We had to go back on the road. I thought, we're going to go 5 miles looking for this nut. And amazingly, a devotee called Rukmini, he found it on the road. I couldn't believe it. If you hadn't found it, we'd stuffed it,
And what's the moral? What's the point from
the moral is that Krishna, he just brings out the best in devotees, because if it wasn't for that circumstance, because so Rukmini was committed and had faith that he was going to look for it and find it.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? I'm just saying, and,
Yes, yes.
so it brings out these glories of the devotees.
Wow.
When Krishna puts them in those situations. You know what I mean? And then there was another one where someone had lost their car keys, and then I didn't get on with this devotee particularly well, but he was really in anxiety. He lost them on the beach, and for some reason I just thought to myself, it's going to be sticking out of the ground, and the sun is going to be reflecting on it, and by seeing that reflection, I'll find the key. And then we went looking for it, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And if the sun, if it was a cloudy day,
Yeah.
you would have found it.
Wow.
That's just my mundane interpretation. It would have been found in another way, perhaps. But I'm just saying that's more or less what happened. The sun was reflecting, and the key was just sticking up a little bit. I just thought, what's? And I didn't even have my glasses.
Amazing.
You know what I mean? I didn't have my glasses, and I'm just saying.
Was that the manifestation of Paramatma in that situation, like who giving you the? Right. Amazing. Yeah.
And then the devotee was really grateful after that. He was so grateful because it would have cost him a lot of money. He had to get back to London and get the original key if he'd lost it.
Wow.
A lot of money, a lot of time, the whole thing, you know.
Okay.
But we found it, and that was it. You know, it was good.
Very nice point. Thank you. Let's see. There's a Mano Prabhu saying, could you give the reference again? Dina, where Srila Prabhupada said we should hear with rapt attention when you gave it. Obviously, I wasn't coming up to the mark. Okay. Yes. It's first canto, chapter 3. I forgot the exact number of the verse. Or could be at the very last verse of third chapter of first canto. Not sure, but please, it's one of the latest verses at least, or maybe last one. Hopefully that helps. Okay, thank you very much. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Gaudiya Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.